everybody, and welcome back to Big Little Mia. So happy to see you here. I hope you have your blanket. I hope you have your coffee. I hope you have your comfort drinks. Let's get comfortable. Before we get into today's topic, let's talk about our fit theme of the day. Today we're giving Ina Garden. We're giving I am hosting guests at the country house with Jeffrey at 4 p.m. After filming. That's what we're giving. And to be honest, we're gonna give Ina a lot because that's fab. She's fab. Did I just read her memoir? Absolutely. But it was amazing. It was incredible. Loved it. So if you need like a little easy read, Ina's memoir. So today we're going to talk a little bit about all of my moves. I have moved 5 states and 1 country in 16 years. Yeah, it kind of sounds crazy once you say it out loud. And also too, there were multiple moves. I think a total I've moved 8 times, 7, 8 times. Sometimes to the same places more than once. So I wanted to break these videos up according to the geographical location that my move was in. So right now, this is going to be called Going West because I moved to the Midwest and I moved to the West Coast. The next video is going to be all of my East Coast moves, and then the video after that is going to be my first international move. So let's go all the way back to 2010. Wow, a really long time ago, but a great time in life, okay? Facebook was just launching, Obama was in office, Travis Porter was making bangers. Like, I was going crazy in 2010. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was 17, I was leaving the nest for the first time. I was in the DMV and I decided to make the decision to go to school in Ohio. I went to Kent State University, go Flashes. And that's around a 5.5, 6-hour drive from the DMV. It's 40 minutes from Cleveland and 20 minutes from Akron. So completely different world. I went to a completely different culture, lifestyle, mindset. I came from this bustling, diverse, metropolitan to like kind of rural Ohio. I mean, Cleveland was close by, but like, we're gonna be honest, like Cleveland is a big town. It just is. It's not a DC, a Miami, a Boston. It has its own quirks, but it's very different from the DMV. And to be honest, I think this video will really help anybody who is moving for the first time, leaving the nest for the first time, graduating high school, graduating college. I just want to talk a little bit about where I was at and some of the things that happened in my West Coast moves. So when I left the DMV, I was really scared. I really was. I was scared. All of my friends were going to Virginia school. The man that I was obsessed with more than anything in this life was going to a Virginia school, and I said, I've thrown away my life. I've thrown away my life. My best friends are going to Virginia schools. My man was going to a Virginia school. Like, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Is this dumb? Is this stupid? Like, I'm going to miss everything. Like, all my friends were going to VCU, ODU. I'm like, I can't drive college to college. I'm going to be in a completely different state. But truthfully, I'm going to bring this to our first tip of the day. Leave your nest. Leave everything you know. And if you haven't done it, just do it. It doesn't matter what age, it doesn't matter how old you are. I take that back. I personally think that you should do it when you're younger. So you don't have kids, you don't have a family, you don't have all those bills, you don't have a mortgage, but you can't do it at any age. But you should be leaving the nest. You should want to explore more. And if you are feeling fear in your heart, that's good. Because it should be scary. Your goals should be scary. They should be scary. They should be lofty. You should be listening to your gut. If your gut is giving you that fear, that's really just an internal compass that you might be doing something that could change your life. And I knew that moving to Ohio could change my life, and moving to Ohio did change my life. I had a time in college. Let me tell you, I had a time. Somehow I was like party girl and girlfriend all at the same time. Don't ask me how that worked out. I have no clue. I was in a completely different state. I didn't know anybody. I was dancing on washing machines. I was blacked out drunk. Sorry, mom. Like I was living La Vida Loca. I was having a great time. I met some of my best friends that I'm still close with to this day. But that was the first time in my life where I was on my own, where I was doing everything on my own. Not everything, I mean, but you get what I'm saying. Like my car broke down, I had to deal with that. Finding a job, I had to do that. Like those were all of the things that I really think helped my character development. Do you see the sun come out as I tell my story? Staring at the blank page before you open up the dirty window. Anyway, I think everyone should listen to Unwritten during every big part of their life, but we won't get into that. But I loved my college experience. I had a great time. I'm so happy I went away for college. All of my fears kind of went away. But what I will say is my next tip, always assess your environment. Because I knew the DMV. Growing up, I just knew it wasn't for me. I knew that it was going to kind of clip my wings in a way, so I went somewhere else. But by the time I was in my senior year, I also felt the same about Ohio. I was like, this environment, I don't know if it's the best for me. I went into college with all of these dreams and ideals, and by the time I left, truthfully, I just wanted to be like a trad wife. I was interning for Make-A-Wish. I had a pretty stable boyfriend who I was also obsessed with. To be honest, there were a lot of men that I was obsessed with. And I can say that now, looking back, because it's like hee hee ha ha ha. But if I line those MFs up, we're just gonna blame my Scorpio Venus. Like I'm really intense and I have a lot of Scorpio placements. I'm an Aries moon. Like, it's a lot going on in here. It's hard to be me, baby. It's hard to be me because I have been obsessed with these men. And I was obsessed with a man in high school. I was obsessed with a man in college. And our relationship did transition over to Arizona, which we will get to in a second. But by the time I graduated, a lot of my dreams had died. I just wanted to work for a nonprofit and like be a wife. Like I was trying to get the ring by spring. Like in my head, I really was. We were going to Ohio State games. I had Ohio State shirts in, I mean, every style. And honestly, I want a refund at this point because after that relationship, I've never worn an Ohio State anything again. But I was just like sold on that life. And to be honest, when you're in the Midwest, that's so normal. That is so normal. You find your person in college and that's it. You're done. You might move to a secondary city. So I just was like, great, that's not that bad of a life. I moved away from home. I did college. I met somebody. Like, I thought I was doing great. We can see how that didn't work out. But that didn't need to, and we'll talk a little bit about that in Inner Works. We're going to get real about relationships, mental health, healing, growth, therapy, all of those things. But, the universe has a plan for you and whatever is supposed to happen will happen. So when I got to that senior year, again, a lot of my friends were thinking about the next step, where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. Are you getting married? Are you moving to New York? Where do you want to go? And because I grew up in a more booming metropolitan area, I knew I wasn't ready to go back to kind of a major city. I didn't want to move to New York. I did think about LA at one point, but because I was interning with Make-A-Wish, I actually got another internship at the headquarters, which happened to be in Arizona. So Arizona was my first cross-country move, okay? And that to me was like a huge deal because I had already left my family. I was already 6 hours away. And then I decided to go essentially a 6-hour plane ride away. But because I had already kind of been on my own for 5 5-ish years. I was like, I got this. I know what to do. I was 21. I was feeling good. Me and that boyfriend broke up. Did he go to Arizona too? Yes. Was that hell? Yes. I was on top of the world. It actually happens, again, everything happens for a reason. I'm a really big universe manifester, all of those things. Everything happened for a reason. So not only did my current internship put me up for that internship, one of my best friends from high school actually had moved to Arizona, and that was one of my mom's favorite places. So I was like, this is perfect. I'm far away, I'm living life, my family can come visit me. I had already gotten an internship, I was pretty locked and loaded. So we moved to Arizona in, let's see what year. Let's go back to the notes, because I have not been looking at these notes one time. I moved to Arizona 2016, I think. And I was there for around 2 years. I want to say. I would have to look. I'll put the exact dates. And I was so excited to move to Arizona, but that was my first big move. Okay, for many different reasons. I was on a different time zone from my family. You could only really get you a plane to get to me. And looking back, that is when a lot of my mental health issues started, my anxiety, my depression. And I didn't know that at the time because I'm 21, 22, trying to just create a life for myself on my own. Because essentially, and I'm not talking about everybody, but a lot of people do these big moves with people. Almost every single move that I did it by myself. And granted, a lot of the cities that I lived in, I did have like 1 or 2 friends, but essentially everything was by myself. Now, granted, here we go. My parents obviously helped me move, all that stuff. Like, again, I'm not from the trenches. I'm not. I think I said that in the past video. I'm not from the trenches. So Kay and Eric, they gonna show up. Especially Kay. Kay's gonna show up. Okay? So I wasn't really doing everything alone. But once she got back on the plane, I was alone. Like, I don't even think my car got there before she left. And a lot of trauma and triggers came from that first big move, because just everything in my world had changed once again. I had been in a space for 5 years with these really close people in my life, you know, that again are still one of my best friends. He just texted me 2 seconds ago. Like, I made the best friends of my life in Kent. But again, I'm starting over. And no matter how many times you do it, it's still difficult because you're building a community. You're finding those things like your doctors, your dry cleaners, your hair girl. I'm black, and I went to Arizona and I'm like, who the fuck is gonna do my hair? Like, there's all these different logistical things that I don't think that people think about. And we are gonna talk about logistics of different moves in part 3, I think. Yeah, in part 3, we're gonna talk about more of like the logistics of the moves. But it's not just about moving. It's not just about having the money to move. It's not just about having the mental space to move. It is about all of the things that come with the move. And looking back, it was a great transition for me. But again, I was at a point where I was accessing my environment. I grew up in a lot of white spaces, and being in public school and moving to Ohio, I was able to really embrace and develop those black communities again. I always had my black family, I always had my black friends, but out of all the places in the world, in Ohio, I was engulfed in blackness, and it was so great and healing for me, and truthfully allowed me to be the best version of myself and even figure out who I was outside of white people. And I'm not saying white people were an identity for me, but I think my dad told me at one point in my life, if you don't figure out who you are, somebody will tell you who you are. And I think from being in those white spaces, a lot of people were telling me who I was. They were telling me that I wasn't the prettiest. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the most athletic. Guys were not interested in me. And it took a lot of healing within college to really get out of that mindset. But then after college, to kind of go back into an environment that made me feel a lot of those truthfully untreated childhood traumas was very difficult for me. So I think if you are a minority, a person of color, somebody in a specific community, you really have to do your research on where you're going, because at that age, I was like, this will be great. I'm in the sun. It's going to be fun. Yay, yay. I got there. I said, so dating is going to be trash. I don't know where to get my hair done. There's no cookouts because it's so hot outside. All of my Black family and friends are on the East Coast. Also, too, fun fact, East Coast Blacks and West Coast Blacks, two different Blacks. I'm sorry. And I'm East Coast Black through and through. I am East Coast Black. I don't know what you West Coast Black people. And I'm not trying to divide us. I'm not trying to segregate. I'm not trying to do all that, but they're different. Have you ever met a Black person from Chandler? Different. Not the same. So I was just very lost, on top of, getting my first job, entering the corporate world. Like, it just was so many adjustments for me. And a lot of people in my life don't even know that was probably some of the darkest days for me. It was a really dark time because I just felt so alone. And for anybody who is thinking about transitioning to a different place, another tip, there's always going to be moments where you feel alone, because that's not your home. I still feel alone sometimes because essentially I'm not living in a place that's my hometown. It's not with my family. It's not with my friends. It's not with my people. So if you ever feel alone, that's normal. That doesn't mean you need to pick up and go. But that might mean that you need to develop your community a little bit more. And if you can't develop a community, then we go back to what I was saying previously on assessing your environment. Is this still the right environment for me? And when I lived in Arizona, I traveled a lot. I mean, I went to so many different places, and I ended up going to the East Coast a lot because I missed it. And I'm an East Coaster through and through. And I just noticed every time I went to the East Coast, I thrived, especially New York. And that was back in the day. Oh my God. Things are just terrible now. Because back in the day when I lived in Arizona, I could go to LA for under $100 flat on Southwest. Under $100. I could go to New York, like round trip, for like $250. So, I mean, I had my first little paycheck, baby. Oh, I was on that plane. I was everywhere. And it was such a fun experience, just traveling to see my friends in their different environments. I went to San Francisco to visit one of my girlfriends. I went to Dallas to see a Cowboys game. I used to go to New York to see all my friends who moved up there. And it was just such a fun time. I was in my early 20s and I'm partying and I'm working and I'm just figuring out what it's like to be an adult, good, bad, and ugly. And I don't think I would have had that experience if I would have stayed in the DMV or if I would have stayed in Ohio. And essentially, I want to say around, I think 2017, 2018, I recognized that the West Coast and Arizona specifically was not for me. And I needed to go back to my East Coast roots. And another thing is, when you're choosing a city, make sure you're looking at a city that's also good for your career. I moved to the Phoenix area. I'm not saying that's not a city, but to have a bustling career, it's not the place. So for my mindset and for my career, I had to realize that it was time for another change. It was time for another transition. And again, I had built another community. I had built another life, but it didn't really fit where I was going at that time. And I think the more that I started to travel and the more that I started to see things, my ambition had started to come back from leaving Ohio. And I decided that I wanted to do more and explore more and be at the top of my field. But I could not do that in Phoenix, Arizona. So a bitch moved back east. And truthfully, that's where the chaos probably that's when the chaos began in my life. Looking back, oh my God, like 2017, 2018, oh my God. But we'll leave that for next video. We'll leave the East Coast return for the next video. So again, thank you for tuning into another video. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, tell your friends, watch it again. I'm thinking it's either going to be part 2 for this next video, or we might do a little fun bonus video. I don't know, we'll see. So stay tuned. We're full of surprises at Big Little Mia.